All right, students, so this is my Photoshop iPad demonstration and also the Unit 2 demonstration. So I want to show you just really quick how to open Photoshop, how to use a few of the features, and then kind of what I'm looking for that Unit 2 assessment. So if you don't have Adobe Photoshop, it should be the PS logo. You can also go to self-service on your iPad if you have not downloaded it, and that's where you can get it. The Lightroom app is what we used first, and Photoshop is a lot more intensive, so you can attach photos together, whereas with Lightroom, it's simple photo editing. So let's go to the Adobe Photoshop app, and this is what it should look like. So if you worked on any previous projects, they should be here, so you can see these are all my examples for the projects that we're doing. And I'm actually just going to open up the Unit 2 work that I did so I can kind of explain how Photoshop is laid out. So this is my Unit 2 example. This was that Photoshop collage. So just like I did, I'm asking you to kind of take objects from your life or your interests and put those together. So I used a lot of my own photos, but I also used some from Google as well. You can airdrop things to your iPad pretty easily, or you can just email them to yourself to get items in your camera roll on your iPad, or you can just go to Safari and you can save images as well. Whatever works best, that's up to you. To navigate Photoshop, on the left-hand side of your screen, you have all of your tools. So all the tools do different things, and so like if you tap a tool twice, you'll have options. So like this one, you have different types of tools, and then like for brushes, if you tap twice, you'll have a lot of different types of brushes you can use. And all these tools do different things. There should be a little menu that pops up. Sometimes it might be in the menu bar. You can always drag it out of the menu bar, and then you can adjust and edit things using those tools. On the right-hand side, you'll have your layers. So it should look like this the first time you've ever used it. You can hit the top right icon, and it will make your layers pop up. And a layer is anything that you add to Photoshop. So any item that you edit and put into Photoshop, it will appear as a layer. So when I require the 10 layers or 10 items for each image or each assessment, you should have those 10 layers. Those are different edits that you're doing. You can also hit the second little layer box so you can see everything a little bit more simple. And there's also the adjustments column where you can edit each individual layer. And I'll talk about this a little bit more in the second assessment, but you can click and drag layers back and forth. So like my son's foot is underneath the breakfast. If I wanted my son to be in front, I could hold down and drag him on top, and then his foot would be on top. And then you can drag him back and forth. The other thing you can do is change the opacity. So opacity is how transparent something is. And you can click and drag that to make him disappear or come back. And then the blending mode is just kind of how that image appears with the others. So that can be kind of fun for layering and things like that. And then the last is the add clipped adjustment. And this allows you to do some things that you can do in Lightroom, but it's just not quite as extensive. So those are all the different layer properties and how you use those layers and kind of how you use Photoshop in general. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create a new document just to kind of show you how that works. I'm not going to demonstrate everything, but I'm kind of relying on you guys to play around with it and ask me questions as well. So let's just hit the back button at the top left corner, and we're going to come back to the main screen. I'm going to create a new document. So bottom left corner, create new. And you have several different options. So if you're going to actually print these out, you can select print, and you'll see they have a lot of different types of printing options if that's interested to you. And then screen is the second option. Most of you will be using screen because you're not going to print these out. But the web large is probably the most common. And then if you're an influencer or something like that, you'll notice that they have iPhone and Android settings too, which is kind of cool. So depending on what you're looking for, you can choose the correct layout. I'm going to choose the web large for this one and hit create. And it will bring up just a blank screen. You can use your fingers to click and drag or pinch, and I don't know what the other option is. But anyway, you can pinch your fingers to zoom in or out, and then you can start editing. So I will say I have noticed a glitch with Photoshop, and for some reason the iPad ad does this. So sometimes when you try to do something, when you create a new document, it doesn't work. So I'll explain what I mean. So let's say I want to add an image to this. So I hit the layer box over here on the right. Again, if you don't see this, top right icon, and the layers will appear. I'm going to hit the plus sign, and I'm going to choose photos so that I can add a photo. So these are all the photos that I saved to my iPad so I can add to my examples. And I'm just going to pick the first one. So I'm just going to pick this purple image, and it popped up. Okay, good. Sometimes it will glitch and it won't pop up. If it does that, just close out of the app and then open the app back up, and it should work just fine. If you have any more issues, let me know, but I have noticed that glitch is that sometimes you'll try to do something and it just doesn't work, and it's not you, it's the program. So I just wanted to it happened to me the last time I tried to make this video. So, but anyway, I can click and I can rotate this. This is just the preliminary editing that they give you. So let's say I want this to be my background. I can click and drag this so it's my entire background and hit done. And then that will be my background that I start with. If you ever want to edit the size again, it's this right here. And it's hard to show you because you can't see like a mouse or anything that I'm using. But you can click on, the second tool on the left-hand side will allow you to do the same things and also some other transform settings. So pretty cool. So this is my background. Now, the other thing I'm going to show you is how to draw on this. So you can actually use your brush tool over here on the left. You can choose whatever color you want. And then these are some other selections. So you can choose the size of your brush. You can choose the opacity again, so the transparency. And then you can choose the hardness. So that's like how feathered it is. So I want it to look like spray paint. So I'm going to lower the hardness. And I'm just going to make some lines on this. And that could be the background that I start with. So that's kind of fun, right? So that's kind of how I do the backgrounds. Nothing super simple. And then to add images, you just want to hit that plus sign again and choose photos. And for this one, I'm just going to, let's add the photo of my coffee mug. Okay, so I'm going to click and drag, make this a little smaller. So I'm going to show you how to remove backgrounds. Okay, so there's a lot of different ways to remove backgrounds. The easiest way is if the background is completely white, then you can choose this little lasso tool and tap it twice, and you're going to have a lot of different options. The way that I've found is the easiest is the magic wand tool and the object selection tool. So let's try magic wand first. You're going to actually tap on the white space for magic wand, and it's going to select all of that same color. But if you notice, there's some shadowing around my mug, so it doesn't select everything. If it did select everything, so like it selects the inside of this handle, you can hit the erase at the bottom and it will remove the inside of the handle, and then you can hit deselect and then you don't see the inside anymore. Okay, and then if you want to move it around again, you hit the move tool, top left corner, and you can move it around so you can see through my handle. Okay, and that is called a PNG file if you've never heard of that before. So the other option, if like I can't select the background, I'm going to choose the object selection tool. Now what you can do with the object selection is you can click and drag over top of your image and let go, and that will typically choose your image. So that's really convenient. And then I'm going to hit erase. Oh no, it erased my mug. Okay, so I didn't want to do that. I wanted to actually invert it. So you're going to hit the undo button at the top of the screen and hit invert first on that bottom bar and then hit erase. And that will erase everything except for the mug. And then you can hit the deselect button. And now you just have this lovely floating mug that looks really nice, right? So that's a good way to remove backgrounds. Now the other way is if you have to erase. So let's say we choose a background that's not easy to delete. So this pink photo of me, here we go. So I'm going to hit done. Now I can't select the background. There's too much going on in the background. It's just not going to work. So I'm going to actually have to use the eraser tool. Now in the eraser, again, same options as the brush. You can change the size of the eraser, the opacity, and the hardness. And then I can actually just take my finger or my pen. I prefer to use the pen on the iPad to do photo editing. And you can erase. Now that's taken forever, so I'd want to go a little bit larger on that eraser. Not too humongous, but a little larger. That's too big. And it like jumps really fast from big to small. There we go. All right, so then that would take a long time, right? But unfortunately for some of your images, that's just what you have to do. And you'll have to zoom in because I didn't want to cut my ear off, right? So how one is actually zoom in and get those fine details. So that's the other way to get rid of things. So I'm just going to undo all that. Let's say I decided, I don't really like that layer. I can actually tap on the layer and hit the trash can and I can delete it. I can also just hit the little eyeball so that I don't see it too. But if I want to permanently delete it, I can hit the trash can, okay? So that is kind of the basics of Photoshop. Now for this first Photoshop project, all I wanted people to do was learn how to get images on the page and how to get rid of those backgrounds and kind of merge those things together. So that's what I was looking for. So let's bring up my example again. So you can see, going back to my example, so I used the brush in the background to make the background colors. And then when I added all the images, I got rid of all the backgrounds. And then some of them I erased around the outside and some I removed the background completely. And I just tried to fit them together so it worked out in a nice collage. So in an effort to not overwhelm you with too much information, that is my first Photoshop demo video. In the next assessment, we'll talk more about coloring and blending, and getting things to look a little more cohesive. But for this first one, play around with the tools, try things out, and ask me lots of questions. Don't forget that if you do reach out and ask me a question, try to include a screenshot if it's possible, so that I can help you easier. So thank you for watching this very long demo, and best of luck to you with your Photoshop endeavors.